Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, massive Mike Tomlin news. If you have not heard yet, the Pittsburgh Steelers and their legendary head coach have parted ways after 19 seasons. I get it. This is the Raiders Report. This is not a Steelers show. But when you're looking for a head coach, the conversation has to be had. Should the Raiders pursue Mike Tomlin to be their next coach? My name is Mitchell Renz, and I'm going to give you the answer to that question here on today's program, because as soon as the news broke, I did kind of sit here in the Chat Sports studios because I tweeted out last night, if you didn't see, that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin are going to be parting ways. I think everybody could see the writing was on the wall, because where there's smoke, there's fire. And there was a lot of smoke around Tomlin, around Pittsburgh, obviously parting ways. And when you lose that playoff matchup like they did yesterday to the Texans, and it was a tough game to be able to watch. But when you are the head coach of the Steelers and you haven't won a playoff game since 2016, sometimes those conversations need to be had. So Jordan Schultz was one of the very first ones on this news. And then the Steelers, they just released their own statement here. I'm going to be honest, I can't read it. It is a little bit too small of writing. During our meetings today, Coach Tomlin informed me that he has decided to step down as our head coach. Obviously, I am extremely grateful to Mike for all the hard work, dedication, and success we have shared over the last 19 years. It is hard for me to put into words the level of respect and appreciation I have for Coach Tomlin. He guided the franchise to our 6th Super Bowl championship and made the playoffs 13 times during his tenure, including winning the AFC North 8 times in his career. His track record of never having a losing season in 19 years will likely never be duplicated. My family and I and everyone connected to the Steelers management are forever grateful for the passion and dedication Mike Tomlin has devoted to Steelers football. That is from Steelers president Art Rooney. And we got to be able to face the facts here, right? If you're the Raiders, I would love to be able to have the problem of, yeah, you know what? We haven't won a playoff game in a few years. But you're talking about a dude that hasn't never had a losing season in 19 years. Schultz also said, I've already received 3 texts from coaches in the cycle who want the Steelers' job, given the rich history and ownership there. In the eyes of people reacting in real time, this is the right up there with the Ravens as the cream of the crop. So obviously, if I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to say out loud, which I've done multiple times, that I believe the Raiders have the number 1 job out there outside of Baltimore, this is going to add another opening, which could potentially steal somebody that the Raiders are looking at as their next head coach. I could also sit up here and go, though, what do the Pittsburgh Steelers have? If you look at the current team, the current situation, is that a better landing spot than the Raiders? Some people will say yes. Some people will say no. But one of the things that I have to be able to consider here, and one of the things we have to be able to discuss is Mike Tomlin the right guy for the job? I talked about John Harbaugh yesterday. We've talked about a lot of legendary coaches on this program. So this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. Is Mike Tomlin your number 1 head coach candidate for the Raiders? Give me a yes. Give me a no. My answer is going to be coming up here after this YouTube ad break. As much as I love and respect Tomlin, I grew up in the 570. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and that is somebody that every time he took the podium, you sat down and you listened to him, because Mike Tomlin is a leader of men. But I want to be clear here. Tomlin is not my number 1 head coach candidate for the Silver and Black, and I got a lot of respect for him. I mean, he's been there for a long time. Got 198, 124, 2 ties overall since 2007. Won Super Bowl 43, which I can literally remember sitting in my buddy's living room watching the Steelers take care of business up against Sean Alexander and the Seattle Seahawks. But he's a defensive-minded guy. And I said this last year when I was talking about Mike Vrabel. I don't believe that there are 32 people on this planet. I don't believe that there are 32 people on this planet that's a better head coach than Mike Tomlin. But sometimes you need to take a year off. And in all honesty, I think Tomlin's going to take a year off. There's already a lot of reports coming out that he's going to take that year off. Might get going in television for a year or two, see how it goes, and then who knows? Maybe he tests the water in another season. But I got a lot of respect for Tomlin. I just don't think that it makes sense for the Raiders right now. I also don't think that it makes sense for Mike Tomlin right now, because at the end of the day, I'm ready to bring in a young, innovative head coach for the Silver and Black. I want to bring in somebody that is hungry to make their name with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, we're going to be pumping out tons of content. I usually go live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday. Because this breaking news just happened, I'm actually going to be going live a little bit earlier today on the Raiders Report. The plan right now is for me to be live by 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I might even be live a little bit sooner. We are going to be giving away a Fernando Mendoza jersey because I forgot to do the raffle late last night. Sorry, y'all. We were celebrating the Texans dub. But if you want free Raiders content, analysis every single day, I'm not always going to be right. But if you're going to listen to my opinion, I'm going to listen to yours, and I want you to join the #1 Raiders community in the entire world by hitting that subscribe button. It's also free. So here's why Mike Tomlin isn't my top choice. You do have to look at recency. You have to look at why this is ultimately happening. Like, for you not to have a single losing season in 19 years, that tells me that at the end of the year, there's been certain struggles. And Tomlin's had recent playoff struggles. You can't deny it. Since 2017, Pittsburgh 0-6 in the playoffs. And yes, I would love, and again, I would love to even make the playoffs as a Raiders fan. So I kind of sit up here and I'm laughing that I'm kind of poking at a guy who hasn't won a playoff game since 2017. But also at the same time, I don't want to have to deal with the past 23 years. The head coach that you want to bring in for the Raiders, you got the #1 overall pick, you got free agency, you got draft picks. The hope is to compete in the playoffs, to compete and deep in the playoffs, to compete, to try to go out and get a Super Bowl title. So even though Mike Tomlin has been amazing, I do think that those recent playoff struggles are something to note. Let's go to another reason here why Tomlin isn't my top choice. He didn't develop Kenny Pickett. I hear you loud and clear. Kenny Pickett probably shouldn't have been a quarterback that went in the first round, but Mike Tomlin's co-signed it. He signed off on it. You're telling me Pittsburgh's going to do something that Tomlin didn't agree to back in 2022 when Kenny Pickett was the very first quarterback taken in round 1? I know that Fernando Mendoza is a better quarterback prospect than Kenny Pickett, but Pickett needed development. Fernando Mendoza is going to need development. Anybody that's going to be the quarterback of the Raiders needs development. So the only thing that I have seen recently is how Tomlin handled drafting a quarterback in round 1, and it was a disaster. They traded him to Philadelphia in 2024. He was on the Browns. He was on the Raiders in 2025, and I get it. Pickett's not a good quarterback, but Mike Tomlin signed off on it. So to me, that's got to be another reason why we sit up here and we go, yeah, I don't think Tomlin is the right man for this Raiders job. I got more reasons coming up here in just a moment. And then at the very end of the show, we got tons, and I mean tons, of NFL news to discuss, because when a bombshell report, a bombshell news item like this drops, a lot of things end up happening. And I'm going to tell you what those are here in just a moment. But today's show, sponsored by America's #1 fantasy sports app out there. It's Prize Picks. And Prize Picks always feels good to be right. Sometimes change is difficult, and we're about to see how difficult that change is going to be for Pittsburgh. But I don't know about y'all, I miss fantasy football, and I can't wait to watch some more playoff action this weekend. And if you want to know what my 2-pick power play lineup is going to be, I'm going to go Josh Allen on the more for the rushing touchdown, and I'm going to go Puka Nacua more on the rushing or receiving touchdown. This is a lineup that if you want to be able to rock with me, you can do so by giving me a follow on Prize Picks. It's now available in all 50 states if you didn't know already. So download the Prize Picks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to be able to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. I'm not saying that it's good to be right that I called Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers parting ways, but that's also the reason why I want people to watch this show. It's why I want people to give me a follow on social media. Yeah, I cover the Raiders, but we got a lot of really smart people here at Chat Sports that do a lot of great other things in terms of team coverage and NFL coverage. And if you watch this show, you're probably not all that surprised that Tomlin ended up getting fired. Speaking of that, and he's already being linked to Miami, Tomlin. Very, very interesting. NFL Network is already linking Mike Tomlin to the Miami Dolphins job, which I think is really interesting because I would have thought Harbaugh and Tomlin, they might be battling it out. If Tomlin goes to Miami, I'm going to say this. I think that means Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the Giants. Could be interesting. Let's talk about Tomlin's veteran quarterbacks. And the reason why I bring this up is because I'm at the point where I'm done with the veteran quarterback retreads. I want Fernando Mendoza. I want him to be the number 1 overall pick for the Silver and Black. I want a rookie quarterback. I already told you that he struggled with Kenny Pickett, but then also you look at the past few years, Tomlin has wanted to work with a veteran QB. He brought in Russell Wilson, brought in Aaron Rodgers. I don't want another Jimmy Garoppolo, Gardner Minshew, Geno Smith situation. This is our time to get a young QB. And if Tomlin wanted a veteran QB then, you kind of have to wonder, does he want a veteran QB right now? And we're going to have to go out and add some quarterback depth because we got none. But because of the way that Tomlin has handled his quarterbacks recently, again, it's got to be a part of this conversation when you discuss the Silver and Black. Let's go to my last and my final reason, and this has been something that I have talked about a bunch on this show. I want the next Raiders head coach to want to make his legacy in Las Vegas. What do I mean by that? Jon Gruden didn't need to make his legacy with the Raiders. He already had it made back in Tampa Bay. You look at Josh McDaniels, didn't need to make his legacy here. He already made a legacy in New England being the offensive coordinator with Tom Brady. You look at a guy like Antonio Pierce, and I know Antonio Pierce doesn't have the legacy track record like a lot of these other coaches do, but I do think it's important to think with your head instead of thinking with your heart. And Mike Tomlin is a guy that I love, but I'm not going to think with my heart. I'm going to think rationally with my head, because then also you look at a guy like Pete Carroll, super fun guy, was a great locker room type of coach, and sometimes it passes you by. I'm not saying it's passed by for Mike Tomlin. All I'm saying is I actually think Tomlin should just take a year off, mental refresh, and then he could come back in a year or two. That's just not where the Raiders are currently at right now. So I could sit up here and say Mike Tomlin is a hell, and I mean a hell of a football coach. But I could also sit up here and go, the timing isn't right. And because the timing isn't right, and because I think timing is everything in the world, life, relationships, head coaching, because the timing isn't right, I don't think it makes sense for the Las Vegas Raiders. Coming up next here on the program, let's get into some other NFL Raiders head coaching news, because again, when dominoes fall in this league, more and more dominoes start to fall. There was a report earlier this morning from Albert Breer, in case you did not see it. Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter has interview requests from the Browns, Cardinals, Dolphins, Falcons, Giants, Raiders, Ravens, Titans per sources, all 8 teams. Well, now there's 9 openings. I'm going to tell you this right now. Jesse Minter's about to get another interview request with the Pittsburgh Steelers. More NFL news here. This one's coming in from Tom Pelissero. Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley interviews today for the Titans head coaching job. The start of a busy week for Hafley, who also will interview with the Falcons, Cardinals, Raiders, and Dolphins. I fully anticipate him getting one of these, Packers coach Matt LaFleur said on Monday, which we'll talk here a little bit more about Matt LaFleur in just a second. I do, though, also want to bring up Brian Flores, because I believe that the Raiders could be interviewing Brian Flores here shortly. Based on a source that I talked to, and this was a source that reached out to me, I think at this point it's probably 2-3 weeks ago, that told me that the Raiders are interested in Flores. Haven't really heard anything over the past, again, 2 to 3 weeks, whenever I said that first. But his contract ends in Minnesota January 14th. There is a part of me that wonders, if Brian Flores does not get a head coaching job, could the Raiders potentially offer him a contract very similar to what they offered Patrick Graham and Chip Kelly last year? They gave PG a $1 million raise. They made Chip Kelly the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. If Brian Flores does not get a head coaching job, I do think that the Raiders are going to go, hey, here's about $6 to $7 million. We'll make you the highest paid DC in the NFL. If you want to come over here and join the Silver and Black, him and Tom Brady are good. I don't know how that would work with Max Crosby and his whole relationship with Flores. I'm not saying Max has said his relationship is bad, but Max did say a few years ago that he did not want to be drafted to the Miami Dolphins because of the way Flores and that staff treated him or how tough they were on him. But I will also say this. If you were to tell me who do I think might be the number 1 coach now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think it could be Brian Flores, somebody that was with Mike Tomlin, somebody that was with Pittsburgh recently, I want to say in 2022, And if I follow tea leaves the way that I think that I can, Baltimore interviewed Flores today. And if Baltimore wants Flores, and if Pittsburgh's eyeing Flores, Flores has got to be looking at those dollar bill signs going, if I can get those two teams going up against each other, I'm going to make a lot of money. And I know there's a lot of Raiders fans that are worried about Flores being the next head coach of the Silver and Black. I'm going to say this right now. With the openings in Baltimore and the opening in Pittsburgh, I don't think there's any chance in hell Brian Flores is going to be the next head coach of the Silver and Black. Let's go to a very interesting report back over to the Green Bay Packers, and this one's from ESPN insider Rob Demovsky. It is possible that the Packers, working on extension, they know LaFleur wouldn't take. Then it makes them look like, hey, we tried, but ultimately we decided we couldn't come to an agreement. Or does Matt LaFleur go in there and say, I want $16 million, and the Packers say no? This report on LaFleur and the Packers working on a new deal doesn't necessarily mean that he's the coach next year and the year after that. I think all of those things are in play here. So the reason why I bring this up is because this could be another coach maybe that is available out there. I mean, right now there are 9 head coach openings in the National Football League. I knew the 2026 offseason was going to be crazy for the Silver and Black. I don't know if I expected it to be this crazy, though, around the National Football League. And if the Green Bay job becomes open, that's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, we were talking today around the Chat Sports Studios. Rich Bisaccia will end up probably getting let go by the Green Bay Packers. If he gets let go by the Green Bay Packers, there's going to be certain people on that Raiders organization that are going to want to bring back Rich Bisaccia to be the special teams coach. Obviously, it's going to be a job that we're looking for. I'm not saying we should do it, but it will be a conversation that'll be had. So that's why you hit that subscribe button, because maybe you haven't heard that Rich Bisaccia is probably going to be looking for a brand new job in 2026. More NFL news that happened today. The Chargers ended up firing offensive coordinator Greg Roman. They also ended up firing their offensive line coach, but to me, this screams the Chargers are going to be looking for a brand new OC, and they're going to be looking for a brand new defensive coordinator. So that's telling me Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Chargers, he's going to be sitting back there going, all right, I need a new OC, I need a new DC. Sharon Moore, stop it. At first I was like, where are we going with this? No, Sharon Moore was a guy just fired by Michigan. That would be, you know what? Go ahead, Chargers. Go ahead and hire that guy. It would be a great move by Jim Harbaugh. That'd be hilarious. If they ended up doing that, man, I might go live. Speaking of me going live, I'm literally getting ready to go live on the Raiders Report. It's going to be a crazy live show today. And again, we're going to be giving away a Fernando Mendoza Raiders jersey because that's on me. I forgot to do it last night when we were live for Steelers and for Texans. Tomlin has been fired. He's a legendary head coach, no doubt Hall of Famer, but timing is everything. And I don't think that the timing makes sense for Tomlin, and I don't think that the timing makes sense for the Silver and Black.